Hi, my name is Vishnu Prem. I'm a student here. So the theme for this event that was told to me was catalysis. Now catalysis, that's an event or maybe a spark that sort of initiates a large chain of events. Now when I was given that event, I thought back to, sometimes it's not like the big things that really cause the changes. Sometimes it's the tiny habits, the little things you aren't even thinking of doing, but that can cause a huge impact later on in your life. I'll tell you a story, and in my opinion, this little event that happened has sort of caused me to end up where I am now, right? And this happened about 5 years ago, back when I was studying in IIT Calicut, and I was in my 4th year. I was, at this point, I knew I wasn't an engineer, but I had decided I wanted to leave the college with the degree in hand, so I've decided I want to be there. I was about a week or so away from midterms, and I woke up early morning, and I get my, like they said, I am a coffee fanatic. Back in the day, I used to mostly subsist on lattes that would, I would make a big one in the morning, and by evening, there'd be a cold latte, and I would still be drinking it. So I woke up this morning, and I really wanted my, coffee kick. So I get up, I boil my water, and I start making the coffee, and I realize I do not have milk. So I decide, okay, you know what I will do? I'll go buy some milk. Keep in mind, this is a very small area next to my campus, and I go for a walk. I'm taking in the usual sights. It's early morning, so you have all the curmudgeonly old men sort of gathered together, having their chai and cigarettes. You have the shopkeepers with their newspapers out. I notice this bus, it's a huge bus, and in Kerala, they're practically weapons of mass destruction at the speeds they're going, right? And I see one whip past me. At this very moment, what was happening and what I didn't know about was that there was this man and his wife, and she was pregnant, and they were on their way to the hospital, right? And what they didn't notice was me on the road in their way, and they ran into me. So that, had quite an impact on me, very literally, because I, ended up with a scar, and I lost a tooth, and I tore a bunch of ligaments. But then it had a chain reaction. That little event sort of influenced quite a lot that happened in the next day. And whether that's a concussion or whether that's something else, I couldn't really tell, right? It started with the first decision I made after, the 3 days in the hospital, which was I will write the exams. Never before in those 4 years in college had I ever been ready to write an exam. I'd been looking for excuses for exams to be postponed. And here I was given the opportunity. My sir said, you can not write this exam, you just need to give it the next year. It'll be fine, we will waive it. I said no, and I, decide I will write this exam. By the way, I will tell you the first lesson I learned, which is that you can't really be prepared for anything that can happen. Sometimes you want a cup of coffee, and you just get hit by a car instead, right? But let me explain. So after this, I decide I write this exam, and I'm writing it with a broken hand. Like I said, no ligaments, so I'm moving the paper and managing to write the exam. And look, don't feel too bad, because as an engineering student, I never really wrote much anyway. And this way, I didn't really need the extra time or anything. So I managed to get past it pretty well. I got my passing grade, and I escaped. But the real takeaway here was, this decision was unanimously by my friends, by me, and by my mom to an extent, considered to be kind of stupid. Why would you do this? Why would you subject yourself to this? But let's be honest, some decisions were much better in hindsight. Had I not written that exam, the next year I would have been hit with COVID-19. And knowing me, look, when I was in college with my friends, I did not study while they were all studying. I am not studying when I am stuck in a room alone. And I am sure that if I had not written that exam back then, I probably would not have passed out of that college in the time I was given. Let's get back to where I was. I wrote the exam. This was a good decision. And 6 months on, I'm recovering. Excuse me. I'm recovering. And the first thing you notice is that, so when you get into an accident, I'm sure a couple of you may have, when you get into an accident, the actual recovery process is just not using your arm, right? There is not much you do. It is just you wait until things are much better. But what you don't really realize is that recovering from that recovery can take longer than the actual recovery itself. And look, in my case, there was not much else you could do except wait for the muscle to sort of decay while you're not using it and everything to heal, and then do physio. But it doesn't really stop there, right? While I've dealt with friends who've had issues, right? Like you have certain problems and maybe you have a bad breakup and you decide to go on a bender for a week. I have friends who've done that and have ended up on cycles that have lasted several months on end, right? Some of them still haven't really recovered from that. And my point is, like, your route of recovery here it should be something ideal. You don't want to make it so that, sure, you're now over the breakup, but at what cost? Your health is now down the drain and you're going to have to recover from that. It's probably not the best way to go about things. So, you know, always keep that in mind, that sometimes the recovery itself needs to be considered, right? You need to keep in mind what it can do to you. So, as this happens, and I go through physio, and physio, let me tell you, is the most frustrating process you can imagine, right? You are doing the most mundane and minute activities you can think of. You are trying to raise your hand, you are trying to move little motions, and you will be frustrated because you can't do a single bit of those motions that you used to be able to do with the utmost ease. And you realize at that point that you never really know the intricacies of how things work until you're unable to use it and until it breaks down completely, right? I think this, especially as a computer science engineer, like if you've ever dealt with a code and you're like, this has one issue and let me try and fix it, and you enter a type in code and you end up with a list of errors bigger than the code itself, right? It's similar to that. All I thought was, oh, I tore a couple of ligaments, but then that's not all. It takes quite a bit of recovery. In fact, a lot of it still remains with me to this day, right? I still can't go hard at the gym. I need to sort of be careful when I do certain motions with my shoulders. So really, like, you do not appreciate the things that happen and the way things function within yourself until they stop being that way. There are good things, though. Personally, I think the accident had a good impact on me, and I don't mean that literally, right? In the sense that after the accident, I did start appreciating things a lot more. I started looking at things on the brighter side, because when I started making these tiny progress steps, right, such as just being able to raise my hand in the morning without having sort of pain or just a jerky motion, you end up with a better view on life. You're able to appreciate these little things that you weren't able to do earlier. And when you're finally able to achieve these things, you know, it feels great. And to an extent, if I had not had that accident, I would have probably kept trying to convince myself that an engineering job is what I want. And I was very clear right after that accident, I do not want to be sat in front of a computer doing that ever again. And from that moment, I started pursuing the things I wanted, right? And no, on a lighter note, after all this, after an accident, what was the real takeaway? What was the biggest change that it made on me? Well, now I wake up in the morning and I still get that urge for coffee. But now I realize I'll just drink it black. Because I think, you know, sometimes drinking black coffee may reduce your chances of getting hit by a car. Thank you.